Welcome back to Technically You, the podcast that unpacks the tech that is shaping our world. Today is part 2 of our coverage of FIPS 140-3, covering real-world applications, challenges, and limitations, and the future of FIPS 140-3. So, are we seeing FIPS 140-3 being critical?
One major area is zero trust architecture deployments. As agencies modernize to zero trust, every component, authentication, encryption, access control, needs to be FIPS validated.
Why is zero trust pushing FIPS adoption?
Zero trust assumes breach and requires continuous verification. That means cryptography everywhere, encrypted communications, signed tokens, verified identities. All of that cryptography needs to be FIPS validated for government zero trust implementations.
What about specific agencies or programs?
The Department of Defense is undergoing massive FIPS compliance efforts as they modernize IT infrastructure. Every new system, every cloud migration, every contractor solution has to meet FIPS requirements.
What about outside pure government work?
Healthcare is huge. With the expansion of telehealth and electronic health records, FIPS compliance has become critical for protecting patient data under HIPAA. Many healthcare organizations require FIPS-validated encryption.
What about the recent move to post-quantum cryptography?
That's fascinating. NIST is actually updating FIPS standards to include post-quantum algorithms, encryption that's resistant to quantum computer attacks. FIPS 140-3 will eventually incorporate these new algorithms.
So FIPS is evolving with threats?
Exactly. As quantum computing becomes more practical, current encryption algorithms like RSA will become vulnerable. FIPS will require migration to quantum-resistant algorithms to stay ahead of the threat.
Any recent high-profile cases where FIPS mattered?
The SolarWinds breach highlighted the importance of supply chain security and cryptography. In the aftermath, there's been increased emphasis on FIPS validation as part of vendor security assessments.
How does FIPS help with supply chain security?
FIPS validation provides documented evidence that cryptographic components have been independently tested. It doesn't prevent all supply chain attacks, but it raises the bar and provides assurance about at least the crypto components.
What about critical infrastructure?
Electric grid, water systems, transportation, FIPS is increasingly required for operational technology and SCADA systems. As these systems become more connected, strong validated cryptography is essential.
I wouldn't have thought about power plants needing FIPS.
They do now. Cyber-physical systems that control critical infrastructure are high-value targets. FIPS validation ensures the cryptography protecting those systems meets rigorous standards.
Okay, but FIPS isn't perfect, right? What are the challenges and limitations?
The biggest challenge is the time and cost of validation. Getting a product FIPS 140-3 certified can take 12 to 18 months and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That seems excessive.
It does seem long, but remember, you're validating that cryptographic implementation is secure. Testing is thorough, documentation extensive. The labs are checking everything from code to physical security to operational procedures.
Does that delay product releases?
Absolutely. This is a real challenge for fast-moving tech companies. By the time your product gets a FIPS validation, you might be several versions ahead in your commercial release.
How do companies handle that?
Many maintain separate FIPS-validated versions that lag behind commercial versions. Or they design products modularly so the cryptographic components can be validated independently.
What other limitations?
FIPS can sometimes lag behind best practices. Because standards and validation take time, cutting-edge security features might not yet be FIPS approved, even if they're considered secure.
Can you give an example?
New elliptic curve algorithms or emerging encryption standards might be academically sound, but not yet in FIPS. Organizations strictly following FIPS can't use them until they're approved and validated.
So there's a tension between innovation and compliance?
Exactly. FIPS ensures a baseline of proven security, but it can slow adoption of newer approaches. The validation process is deliberately conservative. Proven security over bleeding edge.
What about international recognition?
FIPS is a U.S. standard. While it's widely respected and often referenced internationally, other countries have their own standards. The European Union has common criteria, for example.
Does that create problems?
It can create complexity for global products. You might need FIPS validation for U.S. government customers, common criteria for European customers, and other certifications for other markets.
So, multiple expensive certification processes?
Unfortunately, yes. Though there are some harmonization efforts, the Cryptographic Module Validation Program works with international partners to recognize each other's testing.
Looking ahead, where is FIPS 140-3 going? What should people expect?
The biggest shift coming is post-quantum cryptography. NIST has been running a competition to identify quantum-resistant algorithms, and those will eventually be integrated into FIPS standards.
When will that happen?
NIST finalized the first post-quantum algorithms in 2024. Integration into FIPS 140-3 and validation processes will take several more years, but it's coming.
Why does this matter if quantum computers aren't widespread yet?
Harvest now, decrypt later attacks. Adversaries can steal encrypted data today and store it. When quantum computers become powerful enough, they'll decrypt that historical data. Sensitive information needs quantum-resistant protection now.
That's actually terrifying.
It is, which is why government and critical infrastructure are already planning post-quantum transitions. FIPS will drive that adoption by requiring quantum-resistant algorithms.
What other changes are coming?
Increased automation in the validation process. Currently, a FIPS validation is very manual, extensive documentation, hands-on testing. There's movement toward more automated testing and continuous validation.
What would continuous validation look like?
Instead of validating a product once and it's good for years, imagine ongoing automated testing that continuously verifies cryptographic implementations remain secure even as code changes.
That would solve the version lag problem.
Exactly. It's still early days, but the vision is DevSecOps for cryptographic validation. Security testing integrated into the development pipeline.
What about cloud-native architectures? How does FIPS adapt?
Cloud-native presents challenges: containers, microservices, serverless functions. FIPS validation traditionally focused on discrete modules. How do you validate cryptography in ephemeral containers?
Good question. How do you?
The approach is evolving. Validate the container images and runtime environments. Use FIPS-validated cryptographic libraries within containers. Ensure the underlying cloud infrastructure is FIPS compliant.
Is anyone doing this successfully?
Yes, government cloud migrations are driving innovation here. FedRAMP, the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, requires FIPS compliance. So cloud providers serving government are figuring this out.
What about IoT and edge devices?
That's another frontier. IoT devices often have limited computing power, but they're increasingly handling sensitive data. FIPS validation for resource-constrained devices is an active area of development.
Will FIPS requirements become more widespread?
I think so. As data breaches continue and regulations tighten, more industries will adopt FIPS as a baseline. It's already happening in finance, healthcare, critical infrastructure. Expect that trend to continue.
What should organizations be doing now to prepare?
Start planning for post-quantum migration. Review your cryptographic inventory. What systems use what encryption? When they require FIPS validation. Begin thinking about quantum-resistant crypto migration paths.
Even if quantum computers are years away?
Especially because they're years away. Transitions take time. Better to start planning now than scramble later when quantum attacks become practical.
All right, we're coming up on time. Let's bring this all together. What do people need to remember about FIPS 140-3?
FIPS 140-3 is the gold standard for cryptographic module security. It's a rigorous, independently validated certification that ensures cryptography is implemented correctly and securely.
And it's required by the U.S. government?
Required for federal systems and contractors handling sensitive government data. But its influence extends far beyond government, healthcare, finance, critical infrastructure all use FIPS as a security baseline.
We talked about 4 security levels.
Right. Level 1 is baseline cryptographic correctness. Level 2 adds tamper evidence. Level 3 requires tamper resistance and identity-based authentication. Level 4 is the highest level with environmental protections and sophisticated attack resistance.
The validation process is expensive and time-consuming.
12 to 18 months or more, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that rigor is what makes the certification meaningful. Independent labs thoroughly test every aspect of the cryptographic module.
Recent use cases?
Zero trust architectures, healthcare systems, critical infrastructure, post-quantum crypto preparation, and cloud government deployments. FIPS is being applied to increasingly diverse and modern architectures.
And the future?
Post-quantum cryptography integration, more automated validation processes, adaptation to cloud-native and IoT environments, and likely broader adoption across industries as security requirements increase.
Bottom line, if you're working with sensitive data, especially government or regulated data, FIPS 140-3 is something you need to understand and implement.
Absolutely. It's not optional for government work, and it's increasingly becoming a best practice even in private sector. Strong, validated cryptography is foundational to data security.
Any final advice?
Start early. Don't wait until you need FIPS compliance to think about it. The validation process takes time. If you're building products for government or regulated markets, factor FIPS validation into your product roadmap from the beginning.
And for organizations using cryptographic products?
Ask vendors about FIPS validation. Don't just take their word that they use military-grade encryption. Ask for FIPS 140-3 validation certificates. Verify the specific module and version you're using is actually validated.
Great advice. Thanks for breaking down FIPS 140-3 for us.
Thanks. This is one of those topics that sounds dry, but is actually critical for anyone in security or working with sensitive data.
For our listeners, if you're working on government contracts, handling healthcare data, or just want to understand what government-grade cryptography actually means, hopefully this gave you a solid foundation.
And remember, cryptography is hard to get right. FIPS 140-3 exists because even experts make mistakes. Using validated cryptographic modules is one of the smartest security investments you can make.
Until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and stay curious.